Hello, fellow Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Pleasanton. This meeting is being recorded and will be available for viewing on our YouTube channel. A warm welcome to our visitors today. We hope you enjoyed today's meeting and come back again. If any visitors want to learn about becoming a member, please see Ricky Walters after the meeting. And I am Mark Tanis, President-elect, subbing for Jim Hansen, who is out having surgery, and I believe it went successful. So it's great news. And I just wanted to give a special thanks to today's greeter, Mike Kowalski, and another thanks to Heidi Murphy, who did our attendance, and special recognition to both Julia Leung and Kathy Alameda for a registration treasury. And of course, a special thank you to Ricky for leading our tech. And Lee Carlson, you can lead us in the pledge, please. All right, we're going to pause the recording and all right. Thank you, Ricky. And Ricky's got a song for us.
No. Yeah, please don't sing, Ricky. Don't worry. My country 'tis of thee, but with the full organ and everything that goes with it. Yeah. All right, you guys ready? Here we go.
So that test us if we knew them or not. Yeah, I wanted to see if you knew the words of the song. I think you did okay.
All right, we've got our Rotary International video next.
Tom Fox can help you.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why it's not doing it, but we'll go to a different one. About this one. About this one.
Our connections make powerful things happen, uniting individuals and communities. We are Rotary. We are people of action. And together, we turn great ideas into reality by accessing our networks, our experience, and the best of ourselves to make a difference. Around the world, Rotary brings leaders together to build new friendships and to solve problems. Like in Austria, where generations work side by side to come up with innovative ways to build sustainable housing and community centers, everyone learning from each other. In India, volunteers run a mobile blood bank to help provide a steady blood supply for their local community. And in Taiwan, people are working hard to get vulnerable citizens the support and services they need. With over 1 million members, we know what people can do when they come together. In your backyard and around the world, there's power in our connections. Take action with us. Find out more at Rotary.org.
Thank you, Ricky. Next, I'd like to welcome any visiting Rotarians. Do we have any today? Looks like we have one. There we go.
We certainly have one. This is Bob from the Rotary Club of Dublin in the category of
Hello, fellow Rotarian.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. And next, I'd like to welcome guests of Rotarians. Any guests today? All right. All right.
Say hello, Dick.
Hello.
All right. Very good. Well, next up, we've got our, oh, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, we could start today. Anybody that's relatively new to the club?
I'm starting to get to know people. Taking role last week and being a surprise reader this week.
So it's great. I really enjoyed the last 3 months.
Hello, I'm Angela Adams with Omaha. I've been a member January. Okay, so for a while, since the beginning of the year. So it's always nice to be here and see everybody. But thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Isola. I just transferred from the Truckee Rotary Club, moved to Pleasanton May 1st. And it took me about 4 weeks to grow this mustache that I have. Thank you. Working up.
All right, thank you very much. And next, Jim Goldseth is going to be give us our inspirational moment.
Yeah, I'm not focusing on inspiration so much, but I'm focusing on the argument that the day that is most completely wasted is the one in which you did not laugh. So I'm going to, I went into one of my books, it's about 15 years old, and wanted to come up with some funny things and found out that, you know, there are a lot of things we could talk about and make jokes about 15 years ago that are really not appropriate these days. So it's a struggle. I can first time I can appreciate some of the comedians complaining, you know. But so I tried to find some pretty innocuous things, but this book is full of them. Things like this comments by Steve Martin. I do anything for a good body except exercise and eat right. Or from John Stewart. War is God's way of teaching Americans geography. Or Nora Ephron. Successful parents have adult children who can pay for their own psychoanalysis. Yeah. So this is broken down into categories such as men and women. So you have to be very careful on this on this section. One comment. I like the concept of men. It's the reality I have trouble with. Another, you have to be very fond of men to love them. Otherwise, they're completely unbearable. Oh, yeah. There are two reasons the world is so screwed up, men and women. The male is a domestic animal, which, if treated with firmness and kindness, can be trained to do most things. All right, enough of that. Life, okay. Life is full of misery, loneliness, and suffering, and it's all over much too soon. Yeah, a lot of the really funny things I don't think are appropriate these days. Okay. Well, I'm not going there. Okay. Yeah, right. This life is a test. It is only a test. If it were a real life, you would receive instructions on where to go and what to do. Sometimes I lie awake at night and ask, what have I done wrong? And then a voice says, this is going to take more than one night. Money, money, money. Money's fair. An unhappy poor person is in a better position than an unhappy rich person, because the poor person has his hope. He thinks money will help. Yeah, that's pretty good, actually. The nation should have a tax system that looks like someone designed it on purpose. At tax time, gather those receipts, get out the tax forms, sharpen your pencil, and stab yourself in the aorta. Yeah. People in a fortunate position always attribute it to virtue. Yeah. I opened an E-Trade account, and in only a week, I changed $1,000 into $420. Of course, I had to pay some fees. Never confuse brains with a bull market. Here's a whole series. A fool and his money are soon parted. We've all heard that. There was a time when a fool and his money were soon parted, but now it happens to everybody. And how did a fool and his money get together in the first place? Save money. Someday it might be valuable. I have something no billionaire will ever have: enough. And I am proud to be paying taxes in the United States, but I would be just as proud for half as much tax. The surest, this is science and technology, the surest sign of intelligent life exists elsewhere in the universe is that it has never tried to contact us. Einstein's original theory of relativity is that time slows down when you are with relatives. Everybody lies. This is truth. Everybody lies, but it doesn't matter because nobody's listening. They say the truth will set you free, but Uncle Harold told the truth and the judge gave him 6 months. There are some people so addicted to exaggeration that they can't tell the truth without lying. And I told my wife the truth that I was seeing a psychiatrist. Then she told me the truth that she was seeing a psychiatrist, 2 plumbers, and a bartender. Oh. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. All right. So let's see. Next on our agenda here, I'd like to give the microphone to Cove Corey, who's going to introduce today's guest speaker.
So there's a man and a wife that want to go to Hawaii, and the man hates flying. I'm just piggybacking, Jim, on your portion. And so the man says, I can't fly. I'm scared. I really can't fly. So the wife says, well, you figure it out because we're going to go. So he prays to the Lord. He says, Lord, he says, I can't fly. Would you build a highway from San Francisco to Hawaii? And the Lord says, that's impossible. Can't do that. He says, think of something else and I'll see if I can help you. He says, Lord, help me understand my wife. He said, would you like that to be 2 or 4 lanes? So we don't understand our wives, our women, do we? So about 3 to 4 months ago, my real estate company, Keller Williams Tri-Valley, hosted Tom Heckman and his program that you're going to see today. And obviously I was impressed enough with it to bring it here. I'm not going to take the time to say any more. I'm going to let Tom tell his story because he's got a great story and he's got a lot of information to pass on. And then I'm sure there'll be Q&A afterwards. Tom Heckman, please give him a round of applause.
Yeah. Thank you, Cove. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Tom Heckman. I live in Tracy. Used to live in Pleasanton for about 11 years. Been in Tracy for about 8. I have a company called Innovative Dwelling Solutions. And I'm here to tell you a little bit about the ADU space, my company, what we're doing, and I'll touch on, oh, sorry. All right. And I'll touch on California's housing crisis and what our company wants to do to change that. So you want to start our slide? All right. This is us, Innovative Dwelling Solutions, your gateway to ADUs, prefab modular manufactured housing. Next slide, please. So this is a collage. It's a collage because these are all of the housing solutions that we can provide to our clients. You'll see that there's tiny homes, there's manufactured, there's prefab modular, there's multifamily, there's apartment complex, there's townhomes, single family homes. Down on the bottom, there's even shelters, homeless shelters, workforce housing, etc. There isn't a housing solution that our company can't provide for our clients. We work with individuals. We work with individuals and groups of groups. Next. Yep, take your time.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, in terms of the ADU landscape, this slide basically indicates that there is a growing demand for ADUs. So if you go back 5 years, about 5 years ago, in the state of California, if you wanted to add a secondary dwelling in your backyard or on your property, it wasn't an easy thing to do. However, California, as you all know, even across the country, there's a housing crisis. And so light bulb, I guess, went on and they decided, you know what, we need help hitting our housing numbers. So instead of making it harder, let's make it easier for homeowners, landowners to add secondary dwellings on their property. So it's been growing significantly ever since. It's all the rage. Next slide, please. Okay, so there's a lot of challenges in the ADU landscape. Thus, one of the main reasons we exist, or I started the company. First off, the rules and regulations are ever evolving. Realtors, my wife is a 20+ year realtor. The real estate industry is a complex arena in and of itself. And then ADUs also extremely complex. And it's difficult for homeowners or individuals who are thinking about ADUs to navigate that space. Also, there are so many options, so many products, so many solutions out there to even figure all that stuff out. Can be a little crazy. And then also for individuals, just to ensure that the construction, the quality of what they're getting is there. Things are built on a timely fashion, and you know that's why we exist. So we work very closely with realtors. Next slide, please. We work very closely with realtors because when people are thinking about putting an ADU in their backyard, they're typically going to turn to realtors if they know realtors. So they get the questions. And why do realtors need or want to work with us? Well, they can working with us extends their service portfolio because they want to be able to provide solutions to their clients. This is a space that they're not necessarily experts in. So we work closely with them, and that enables them to confidently answer questions or inquiries that they get. And then, of course, you know, you want to stand out in a competitive market, especially in the real estate world right now. It's kind of crazy. So you want to have you want to be able to answer questions. You don't want your clients turning elsewhere for solutions. So that's why we work closely with realtors. Next slide, please. And so we basically, what are the benefits? It's an SME partnership. We're an extension of their team. And it expands, it elevates their client's experience. Once again, they can be a solution provider working with us. Next slide, please. And then in terms of what we do, we help boost real estate investments in a variety of different ways. ADUs will increase property value, maximize rental income. And on ADUs, there's a variety of different applications. And some people like them, some people don't. Some municipalities, every municipality is slightly different with regards to the rules and regulations. So I get a lot of questions, and a lot of the answers I give to those questions are, it depends, because like I said, every municipality is slightly different. There are state guidelines, but municipalities have the ability to kind of tighten up on those guidelines in certain areas. But some people, there's a lot of people who have a lot of grown children who are having a hard time keeping roofs over their heads, apartments, you name it. So a lot of people are putting ADUs in to help their children out, to help family members. Also, if they have aging parents, instead of them going to homes, assisted living, they can come keep close to the family, have some independence. Also, another one is for retirement. A lot of folks, they might like the area that they're in. The house is too big. They don't want, to keep the upkeep. So it'll put a very nice ADU in the back of the property, and they will live in that and rent out the primary dwelling. And then also on the last part here, other diverse investment solutions. So we work with real estate investors who want to develop raw land, multifamily properties, different types of communities. So this is the ADU side of what we're doing, but I'd like to share with you something a little bigger and even more exciting. Next slide, please. So I mentioned California has a housing crisis. I think we're all aware of that. And I want to share with you what our approach and our solutions are and what we're doing to change that. Next slide, please. So California housing crisis, why? We have rising costs. And here there's just two components. Housing prices and rental rates are increasing significantly faster than wages, which is causing a lot of problems in housing. And then the rising cost to build housing continues to go up. So those are just two components that are part of the rising costs. Next slide, please. And then here, what is the impact? Well, high housing costs lead to economic strain, increased poverty, and homelessness. And these are things that we're trying to work on and help. And then also, this is the other thing, the impact is that home developers, you'll notice they're only building, just because of the environment, they're only building luxury homes. Nobody's really building communities that are starter homes, that are 1,300 to 2,000 square foot homes. They're building the luxury homes because the market still exists for it and people are willing to pay for those. Next slide, please. So just to point out a couple numbers on this topic. So in the current 8-year cycle, the state of California has a goal to basically do 2.5 million new units of housing. Well, the reality of it is, at best, we're only meeting about a third of that demand. And then this is the crazy part. In terms of affordable housing, there's two examples over there, examples of the high cost of construction. So the top one there is the Sequoia Hotel. It's a project in Sacramento. They're renovating a hotel to provide affordable housing, and they are SRO style. What does that mean? Single resident occupancy, like a hotel room. And look at the cost per unit for that project, $600K per unit. And then there's another project in San Francisco. Imagine a hotel room, a motel room. It's tiny, less than that. And then the 1633 Valencia Street. Okay, that's one. There was a vacant lot. They're going to build these affordable housing. And these are studios, a studio apartment. I mean, that's not a one bedroom, that's a studio at the cost of $1 million per unit. And then you wonder why, housing isn't getting built. It's crazy. Next slide, please. So what are some of the challenges in housing construction? Well, obviously, high interest rates don't help. Rising cost of building materials and labor contribute to it. And then here's a big one: bureaucratic red tape and mandates. Okay, at the end of no. So it's a big deal. At the end of the day, does the project pencil out? If it doesn't pencil out, then they're not going to do it. Next slide, please. So our unique approach, I say unique in quotes because I'm not going to assume that there's no one else doing something similar, but what we're looking to do is to create solutions that can be scalable, that can be replicatable in other municipalities. Excuse me. So 3 things here: collaboration with nonprofits, factory-built housing technologies, not that I'm against site-built, factory-built housing technologies, and private funding. These are kind of the 3 key ingredients. Next slide, please. Okay, so our mission, kind of touched on it, to build affordable, sustainable housing solutions by collaborating with nonprofit organizations. And then our mission is creating, this is so important, we're not creating communities where you have a roof and you have land. We're creating communities that have all of the amenities that promote communal living, true essence of community, rekindling, incorporating the values of family units, the things that have seemed to have long been lost in our country. And then some of the things that we kind of bring to the table, specializing in the factory built housing technologies. So my company has relationships with most of the industry leading factory built housing manufacturers. There's the big ones we work with. There's a lot of them that come, they go. So it kind of touches on the previous portion about ADUs. You can kind of consider us a broker in that space. And the beauty of it is, like I said before, we can help people, individuals and groups, with any housing solution they could possibly need. And then also, we are experienced working with nonprofit organizations to address the housing needs. There's 3 nonprofits I'll touch on briefly in Tracy that we're working with. And then the other thing is below market rate housing. And I say below market rate housing communities because affordable housing, understandably so, kind of let's just say it gets people a little tense, that topic of affordable housing. But you'll see our solutions, I believe, that over time will change the landscape of what you're seeing out there in terms of homelessness and a lot of the problems that the housing industry is facing. Next slide, please. So below market rental communities. As I mentioned, nonprofit ownership and management. So the nonprofits own the assets. What does this do? This ensures below market rental rates. Then the second piece, community amenities. I talked about it before. Literally all of the amenities that are needed. Imagine, everyone talks about childcare. So expensive. People are working just to pay for childcare. Communities that have childcare right there in the communities where people can get up in the morning, drop their kids off at childcare, go off. This is just one of many, many types of amenities that these communities will have. And then the sustainable model, the rents will cover the operational expenses, and if additional funding. So you raise funding to build the first communities, the housing communities, but the operations, the rents will cover the operational costs. So it is sustainable, and there may be additional funding needed if you want to build another community. So this is on the below market rental communities. Next slide, please. Now, there's an ownership, housing ownership, affordable home ownership, nonprofits as home builders. So they'll develop the communities that the traditional home builders aren't. The starter homes, 1,300 to 2,000 square foot, lower margin sales. So you build a housing community, 50 homes. They're going to sell them. The nonprofit can sell them for 5 to 10% margins versus 20 to 30% margins that what your traditional home builders are getting. If they're not getting that, they're not going to build a community. The funding model. The initial, so for this model, the nonprofit home developer, they have a vision. They want to build one community, call it 50 homes. It costs X to build it. They go out through private funding, raise the money to build that one community, 50 homes. Okay, they build the community. They're going to sell them because they're affordable. They're below market. And then they're making 5 to 10% margins. So now they recoup money to build the next community. With the home ownership model, they don't have to keep going and getting a whole new set of funds for the next community. Now, over time, they might a little bit here and there, but the model, they can just keep if they're building the same size. Over time, costs might, rise, and it might cost a little more to build the next 50 home community. So you might go out and you raise a little more money. Next slide, please. So what is the funding strategy? The sources are corporations and philanthropists. Corporations, all the corporations out there, they do have community outreach. They have they're all looking for good PR opportunities. And I think there's a lot that have a humanitarian aspect where they want to help, especially if it's a viable solution that could really change and eradicate and really be a true solution over time. Benefits for the donors, they get their tax benefits and they get the PR opportunity, as I mentioned, and then ongoing funding. So for the rental communities, so it would be, like I said, operational. The rents will cover operations for the rental communities, but if they want to expand or build another community, then there would be a fundraising effort for that. So they go out and get more private funds. And for the housing, as I mentioned, it's not as much. It's much less in terms of private funding requirements. The money's definitely out there. For example, Apple, I just read the other day, Apple's got a program, $50 million with another company to put into affordable housing. Next slide, please. So what are the positive outcomes? Affordable housing availability. Now more accessible rental and ownership options through what we want to bring. Community development. Again, it's those communities that enhance the quality of life where families could not just live or exist, but thrive and grow and promote that communal aspect of life. Sustainable growth, as I mentioned, the long-term viability, the strategic funding. It is what I believe is the only way to build housing that can secure affordable housing for generations to come, whether it be housing rental or housing ownership. And I'll just talk on the housing ownership piece. They would be deed restricted. They'd be where homes that when you resold them, you couldn't double your money in 2 to 3 years. And that type of restrictions, those types of communities will keep Wall Street and big corporations that are currently buying up inventory and putting a damper on the housing situation. Next slide, please. Now this here, just wanted to share with you. So in Tracy right now, we have 3 nonprofits we're working with. One of the nonprofits, we're building a tiny home community for veterans. And we have land identified. So we're just kind of mapping everything out, putting things together. But this is a tiny home. They are 399 square foot living space. It doesn't include the porches. And then down here is just a architect rendering of the community. Next slide, please. Yes, for veterans. Hey, we'll be building communities that have bigger space for the veterans too. Correct. It's the ones that are struggling right now, and there's a lot of them out there, unfortunately. And then this here is just a rendering of the particular community that we have. So there's 15 tiny homes, space in the park, 2 cars. There's a community garden. There's a rec center and an admin building. There's a pool, barbecue area, gondolas or gazebos, Pickleball court, horseshoe. I love horseshoe. You gotta have, and to Jim's point, you gotta be able to laugh each and every day. I think that's very important. And a lot of the efforts out there to help those needy populations, they just do the bare minimum. They just give the bare minimum. And it is my belief, based on my research and talking to everybody in the landscape, that the important part, it's like you take them, using a football metaphor, 80 yards down the field or 90 yards, you get them to the 10-yard line and you say, okay, good luck with the rest. So all of our communities, whether it be regular communities for anybody to come in, or if they're communities that are for particular populations like veterans or seniors or what have you, and there will be those as well. Point being is that it will have every amenity possibly they need to thrive and truly enjoy life, as we believe it should be. And then, so that's it. And then next slide, please. And, it's working together. So, we're leaning on the church communities in municipalities, or anybody who wants to, likes what we're doing. There's why we're doing this. I look at the landscape as it stands, and there is really nothing out there to incentivize prices to come down. To incentivize, if you look at the housing rental industry, I haven't fact checked this, but I'm pretty confident on these numbers, and other professionals in the industry, they don't challenge me on the numbers. But if you look at the housing rental inventory across the country, I think it's safe to say about 80-ish%, and that's being conservative, is owned by for-profit entities. And again, I'm not knocking capitalism, not knocking for-profit, but in the housing space. So if you can flip that, if you can change that, I think that will enable housing across the board to become affordable, because as it stands right now, you got apartment complexes, or you got a mom and pop who has a rental across town. Even doesn't mean you're not a good-hearted person, but what are you going to charge for rent? You're going to charge whatever the market will bear. Just common sense, right? And so I think the only way, there's nothing in that landscape that incentivizes that 80% population to stabilize rents, let alone bring them down. So now that, there might be the argument, okay, well, why do we have to give? Why do we have to do this? Well, there's a couple positives in this type of model. The money's out there. The good-hearted corporations and people are out there to get behind these. And imagine a world where everybody has a roof over their head, and they feel safe, secure, then what happens is then they'll start spending money on all the other things that our capitalist country is producing. They'll take more vacations, they'll buy this, they'll buy that. So I think it's a positive thing. It's definitely doable. And this is what we're looking to do. And we'll take all the help we can. And that's what we're doing. Just kind of talking to folks and seeing who, likes what we're doing and sees the viability in it, wants to help us out. So that's it for me. Next slide, please. Oh, there you go. Join us in solving the housing crisis. And just kind of recapping, there's a lot of folks in the housing industry that, because I'm not an expert. I learn rapidly each and every day, but the experts are at least giving us thumbs up that, man, Tom, if you can get the funding, this is like the best way to go, because, you bypass the bureaucratic mandates and the hand tying. So next slide. That's it. That's me. That's my contact information. I hope you folks enjoyed the information I shared, and my current project. So I talked about, there's 3 nonprofits in Tracy. One is tiny home community for veterans. There's another nonprofit that we're working on, tiny home community for homeless students. And then there's another organization that wants to build a housing community for battered women and children. And then I have another client who they have a nonprofit organization. The organization basically are families that have autistic children, severely autistic children, and they are concerned about, what's going to happen to their kids when they're passed. So they're building a first of a kind. I'm working with them to do this with regards to prefab construction, 20 single family homes in Brentwood on 4.5 acres. So that's another project that we're working on, and it just keeps on going. And back on the ADU side, we have 7 clients right now. Some are stick built, some are prefab, some are manufactured homes. So, that's a little bit of what we're working on right now. Any thoughts, questions?
Take Tracy, that's where you live.
Yep.
If a single family homeowner comes to you and says, I'm interested in an ADU on my property, I can be manufactured, how much do you tell them it's going to cost?
Well, that is the most common question, and it's not the easiest one to answer, but I do give a range. If somebody's looking to put a ADU in their yard, you're probably, depending on the size is average between 400 to 600 square feet. Most people want to stay below 750 square feet with an ADU to avoid the impact fees. If you're under 800 square feet, the cities cannot govern or tell you what it needs to look like. You're free. You can have those modern ones that are out there, or it can be contemporary looking. But in terms of the price, I tell people you're looking at a minimum of 150,000 up to about 400,000, and you could spend. You could build ADUs that are $1,000 a square foot. It's just it's all over the map. But I give people a range. You're not going to get one for under 150,000. Now you'll see a lot of folks, you go online, you Google ADU, and you'll have companies out there, manufactured companies that are talking about park models, the 399, the tiny home ones, that you'll see 52,000. That's just the unit, and that's just bare bones. By the time installed, all in your backyard, ready to be used, you're at about 150, 130, 150.
So to add that, I have a client that built an ADU on her property, 600 square foot, which is a reasonably good size, and had the ability to pull in favors from contractors. And so her overall cost was about $250 with the favors for 600 square feet.
And then, it's all over the map. Manufactured homes are the lower price point versus prefab modular. And then it's part of my normal presentation that I do with realtors. But with regards to ADUs, there's site built and there's factory built. Everyone knows what site built is, like building a house. But the factory built, there's 2 kinds. There's prefab modular, which is built in a factory. They're built in modules. Some are built with wood frame construction. Some are built with metal steel stud. Those are lifted, set on a flatbed, and transported to their destination, and then craned and set on the foundation. The other ones are manufactured. You're all familiar with those, AKA what we've referred to back in years ago as mobile homes, trailer parks, etc. And there's a misnomer. Well, once upon a time, the quality of those were all over the map prior to 1976. That's why everyone's like, oh, manufactured home, they're not good. Today they are. Today, the quality of construction is equal to the prefab modulars and your site built. The reason they were all over the map is because prior to 1976, there was no governing body overseeing the building codes for manufactured homes. So that's why, some you could look and see your fingers, just shadow on the other side of the sink bowls. But that's why it is that way. It's not the case anymore today. In 1976, July, it's when HUD came in as a governing body that oversees the building standards.
We have time for a couple of questions. Jim?
Can you give us some idea? Can you give us some idea of the price points per square foot under these various options and how that might compare with stick construction?
So, so price per square foot, you can look at 300 to, again, it can go up. And in terms of site construction, I can speak to the cost differences. They're typically relatively equal in terms of the cost to build, but here's where site built can get more costly and where you can have a cost savings on factory built. And that is, and again, I'm a weekend tradesman, never worked in the trades, but always been understand construction. But most contractors will tell you that, you know, there's always things, it never goes as planned. So point is, in site built construction, it's a linear process. Time is money. Factory built homes, site work is being done at the same time your home is being built. So it's a smaller timeline from concept to completion, and it's more predictable. I would argue that the quality standards are higher because you have a higher quality control in a controlled environment. But then on the site built, you can have potential delays due to weather, due to different trades, holding things up, inspectors. You have a variety of different inspectors. Where factory built, it's all done at the factory as it's being built. So that would be the difference in terms of where site built could end up being costing more. And Cove mentioned an example of that. In terms of price per square foot, it really is all over the map. So for example, manufactured home, if you go bare bones, we have an 800 square foot home that actually an 800 square foot home with a client, and that price is, I think it's looking at about 300, about 270K. But it's hard to give those numbers. It's commonly asked, but to take stabs at that, it's not accurate. But from a broader spectrum, that's where site construction or site built can potentially be more costly, because you have add-ons and change orders, et cetera. Anyone else? So cities are required for ADUs to approve plans within 60 days. They don't all do that. And it's up to the individuals to chase them down and say, hey, you're supposed to approve it within 60 days. So that's something that we do for our clients. And we make sure we stay on top of that stuff. So you're looking at 2 months for permitting. And then you're probably looking, anywhere from 2 to 4 months. So I tell everybody with ADUs, you're conservatively, you could be a 4 to 10 month process versus, 10 to 18 months for site built. And again, there's big ranges because there's a lot of variables in there. Does that help? Yes.
If a city is required to approve the plans within 60 days,
Mhm.
if a city is required to approve the plans within 60 days and they do not, what is the applicant's remedy and what's the penalty to the city?
Okay, not sure what the penalty to the city is, but there's advocates at the state that we get them involved to push. Typically, when you come back and you push on them and you state that and you cite that state mandated, and they usually move a little quicker to get that through. In terms of penalties, I'm not sure what penalties are, but what you do is there's advocates at the state level that if you need be, they'll get involved and they'll make the calls and push it, and then the municipalities will jump, get it done. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. It was a pleasure being here with you folks.
Thank you very much, Tom. All right, So let's see, do you have a announcement? Next week is our TTT, third Thirsty Thursday, and it's going to be at the Wood Family Winery in Livermore. So that should be a great event. Yep. All right, that's our lost and found. And also just August 22nd, our next guest speaker will be Cam Inman, reporter for the San Francisco Giants, kicking off the football season. And next, whoops, thank you. All right. All right, opportunity drawing. Thank you. Here we go.
You pick two? There's $42 today.
There you go.
Let's see. 5593. The last three digits. 593. Nobody? 84593.
593.
Someone left? Okay, another one? Yeah. Another one, okay. The next one is 590.
All right.
Take another one.
All right, one more.
Um, 604. Is it Bill?
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks again. We'll see you next time. With that, I'm adjourning the meeting.